All right, well, welcome everyone. It's good to see you here today. I know that you all have probably had a busy day and this is maybe your last commitment before happy hour. So we appreciate you taking some time with us today. Our theme for the year is about relationships. And so today's topic is building engaging relationships with families. We've got a couple of really interesting organizers and things to talk about, and we also have a guest today. So this is your redesign team here at KSDE. I'm Tammy Mitchell, and my colleague Jay Scott and Sarah Perryman are joining us today. So thanks so much for that, and thank you, Sarah, for changing my profile picture. That's taken outside of Kansas State University. So this is still a new thing for me, so I guess I'm just gonna keep on talking about it until Jay and Sarah tell me to shut up. So with that, let's go ahead, and Sarah, I'll kick it over to you and you can talk about our flyer today.
Yes, well, Tammy, as many opportunities as we have to publicly acknowledge you and congratulate you for your hard work, we're going to take them. So much earned congratulations on that, Dr. Tammy Mitchell. So we're happy to share that. But these PLCs are really meant to be an opportunity for us to learn together, to collaborate, and really just a time for us to continue stirring that redesign pot and saying what's new, what's different, how can we continue to grow and innovate. And so the format that we want to use is really following those 4 disciplines of execution that we support our schools in learning through that plan year. So always having a clear focus with what we want to get out of this meeting, making sure that we're providing you guys with something that's actionable and usable, a strategy that's going to lead to success in the area that we're focusing on. We always want to encourage you to find a way to measure how you're going to use that strategy successfully. And then we're really hoping that these PLCs can be a mechanism for accountability, to keep you on track in your redesign and to keep you innovating and really thinking how you can continue to grow and improve to meet the needs of your students. And one way to do that is by engaging families. So that's our focus for today. And I'll turn it over to Jay.
Thanks, Sarah. I really like the focus, lead, measure, and accountability. Or maybe that's accountability. Maybe I messed that last one up. But I like how that breaks down because a lot of you know that we've used the 4 disciplines of execution. That's really the 4 disciplines of execution, using just some key words. And so really like that, that clarity that provides for our PLCs. We're modeling that which we hope is going on in our schools. So today the theme is engaging relationships. Last month we did building engaging relationships with students, and we're switching to families this month. So not that schools engaging with families wasn't important pre-COVID, but listening to many of you, it took on a whole new level of significance during COVID, how you engaged families, especially when school buildings were closed, when you're asking families to take on a much more active role in their students' education. That takes a whole different approach. And I know it was really kind of learning on the fly for everybody, but that's, that's kind of redesign-ish, right, as you move forward. And so it takes a different approach, both in theory and in practice, when you're talking about engaging families during a pandemic. Some of those strategies that were born out of the pandemic were more of a function of the virtual environment. And so some of them may have gone away last year. Some of them you maybe just used for that short term to get through the spring when buildings were closed, but some may have carried over. But the theory, so the strategies may change, but the theory remains in place. How can we engage families in a more effective way that leads to better student outcomes? And as you know, that's one of our bedrock principles for redesign, is engaging families. So today we're going to discuss some of the strategies you've implemented to partner more with your families, to see how those connect to family engagement standards. So we've got some standards we're going to walk through briefly today. And then we get to hear from a redesign school and how they've redesigned the way that they're connecting with their families. So on the next slide, we have a couple of discussion questions for you to take into some breakout rooms. And we're only going to go for 5 minutes, but we'd like you to think about if you, over the last school year, calendar year, over the last calendar year, how has your school or you as an individual educator, how have you engaged families over that course of time, that period of time? What stands out in your mind as a lesson learned through those different family engagement strategies you implemented over the last calendar year? And then the second question is, of those lessons learned, which ones do you feel showed the most promise and they need to be carried forward as you move forward? So just whatever you're thinking, take a few minutes to everybody get a chance to discuss. We'll come back and debrief just shortly, but take a minute to think about lessons learned about family engagement and then those that you'll carry forward.
So Sarah did put those questions in the chat and they will be there for you still when you go to your breakout room. We'll see you in 5 minutes.
Were you guys going to join a room or just let them?
I just put Jay, Pat, and Sarah in room 1 with me. So,
Okay,
but if you want me to assign you to a breakout room, I can do that.
that's
I didn't
okay.
join it though. I didn't
You
join
don't
the
have
room.
to. It's just
I'm just
our.
kidding. I'm kidding.
Well, you know what? I can drop you off. Don't you worry.
I'm like, I
Um,
should join one if I want to talk to Pat.
Do you want to, I usually pause the recording during breakouts, Tammy,
I can do that. Thank you.
just so it's not wasted.
Just
good
remind me.
time.
Okay, is that everybody? Made it back. Welcome. We got some new people joining the group. They came along and one of them is eating their lunch at this time. I'm sure you can all relate to that at some point. So just thanks for joining in. We love it when you can make it to our PLCs. So let's hear a little bit from the groups. Lessons learned about family engagement, building partnerships with families over the last calendar year. What are some lessons learned?
I think from our group, what I heard was schools getting creative with their space, which I thought was cool. You know, taking things outdoors. I didn't jump in on that, but we had a band concert that was outdoors, and we've moved some things to our courtyard, and I think some of those things are going to continue on, which are neat, and I think the families really enjoyed that different kind of setting.
Yeah, switching things up, right? And so they get a different experience. Just subtle changes can make a world of difference. I love that. That's good. Others?
In our group, we talked about how one of those schools, they scheduled things so parents had to sign up, and it was outside stuff that they did, but they still had a sign up time to come in, and so that was kind of cool. I'm also going to say I kind of have the parent aspect and the teacher aspect, because that school was my son's school actually, and so we could as a parent sign up and come and to those events, but there wasn't too many people at one time, and things were ran really cool, so that was nice. But on the teacher side over at my school, we did Google Meets. So families stayed at home, but we sent craft things, books and things like that. So we would read stories and things. So just finding what worked for our families, I thought was kind of neat to hear from all the different aspects of the different schools.
Yeah, Jenny, thanks for that perspective, both from the parent perspective and the teacher perspective. So what I'm hearing is just getting real creative. You still want to make sure you're connecting with parents and families, but being very creative in how to do that and innovative. So excellent. What are some lessons that you talked about to carry forward? I would imagine that those two would be things you want to continue to do, but other lessons that you want to carry forward.
We didn't talk about this in our small group. It just kind of occurred to us as we were brainstorming here, but we're just really appreciative that like the live streaming that started is continuing on, even though we've been pretty much in person the whole time. I think that's something that's great for, our families, but also like our grandparents and other community members. Even if the teams are out of town, almost everybody's live streaming those competitions and things and activities. And that's pretty cool.
That's very cool, Dawn. I'm glad you brought that up. And that's definitely something that's, I think, is going to be part of school going forward. It just makes access that much easier. I'm wondering if anybody's doing some live streaming of events other than sports events.
We did one this year. We have a district-wide contest for Martin Luther King. It's a essay, that type of thing. And it was really cool to kind of live stream the award that we had given in our building. We had a district award winner, so we were able to kind of live stream that and invite the parents to see that. So I think that is something that was really, really nice to be able to do.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that, JJ. That's excellent.
We did live streaming via Facebook for our field day last year. Parents were not allowed to come to field day, but we did a Facebook Live where they could see their kids and enjoy that. And then we had a teacher retire at the end of the school year that had taught at that school for, 40, I think it's 47 or 48 years. And so we live streamed that awesome celebration of her and all of her accomplishments. So we've kind of done a couple of those at our school.
Yeah, Jenny, thanks for that. I mean, I was thinking it used to be such a production to have yourself videoed, right? Or video something and send it out. And now you just hit a button, right? And it's just, we're up and rolling, and this is what we've got, and this is what we're putting out there for the world to see. So awesome, great ideas, great lessons learned. Thanks for taking some time to discuss that with your peers, and I'll turn it over to Sarah.
Thanks, Jay. So we have two resources that we are going to talk through today. They're on the slide. The slide is in the chat, and I will link them as we share each of them as well. But these are just two things that we want you to hold on to, peruse. Like I said, we're going to talk about them a little bit now, but there's a lot more to digest than what we're going to be able to do in this short amount of time. So grab onto those links and keep those resources handy. The first one is going to be asking, are you managing or engaging your stakeholders? And then we're going to look at those family engagement standards that Jay alluded to in our introduction. So Tammy is going to walk us through this first resource. Are you managing or engaging your stakeholders?
Thanks, Sarah. So if you could just drop that direct link in the chat. This is such a good just little checklist. There's a time, like if there's an emergency in your school, or some of the situations that have happened through COVID, there's a time when you have to manage the stakeholders, right? Because it's a crisis, it's an emergency, and it's very much like one-way communication. You have to get information out. But most of the time, what we're striving for is stakeholder engagement versus management. And so you can see here just the differences. When you've got stakeholder management, it's the reason for engaging is just different. So management is about power. It's about because I said so. And there's a time and a place when has to be that way. But what we're striving for is really more of a synergy. We believe we can make a difference together. How do you engage people? If it's management, it's very direct. It's one way. This is the information. You need to know it right now. But what we're striving for under most circumstances is interactive. It's collective. It's inquiry. It's getting together and flattening this perceived hierarchy so that stakeholders can work with school people as equals. The communication on one end, under management, it's very formal. It's official channels, it's fixed protocols. Again, think about that crisis management that you might have to utilize. It has to be formal, it has to be succinct. But under the engagement side, you're looking for inclusivity. Leaders and stakeholders are working together. You're seeking out unusual voices to offer and provide feedback. You're being really intentional. You know, there's the group of parents that you always go to because you always know them, and you know, maybe you go to church with them, or maybe they're good friends, and you always want to talk to them. But how are you intentionally reaching all families, even the ones that are hard to reach? How inclusive are you being in your outreach? What influences change? On the management side, it's authority. It's a technical approach to change. On the other side of it, it's shared responsibility. We're a community. We're all working for our students. How do people meet challenges? Under, again, that management side, it's reactive. Something's happened, you have to respond. It's a reaction. Again, sometimes there's a time for that, but what we're striving for is being responsive. How are we engaging with our stakeholders? How are we listening and empathizing? Really building that strong sense of community. Who can lead change in these different environments? Well, in stakeholder management, it's formal leaders, it's top down, it's from the superintendent, it's from the principal. But under stakeholder engagement, it's all stakeholders can lead. Everyone can lead from their position. And so this visual is a little hard to read on the slide, but I hope that you can click into and keep the resource, because what we want you to be able to do is talk a little bit more about that. How are you really, according to this, what are you doing to engage stakeholders? What have you done to engage stakeholders? And then what is a strategy that currently helps you manage stakeholders that maybe you would like to adjust? So as you're reflecting, where do you see your school on these continuums, and where would you like to be? What little changes would you need to make? And so Sarah's going to plug those questions in the chat, and we're going to put you back in your breakout rooms for, Sarah, how long? 3 minutes, 4 minutes?
Let's do 5.
We've got 5 whole minutes. So I'm going to open up the rooms and we will see you in 5 minutes.
I kind of started typing late, so I paraphrased the second question a little bit, but I think it's okay.
You had some questions, you got some fresh ideas. It's you know, we don't say these things to make you feel bad about what you're currently doing. We just want you to, you know, take one little nugget and try one new little thing each time. So thank you for talking with other people. So I think next I'll turn it back over to Jay to talk about family engagement standards.
Yeah, thanks, Tammy. Some of you know of our organization in Kansas called TASN. It's a Technical Assistant School Network. And they have part of that is the Kansas Parent Information Resource Center, which is run by Jane Groff. She's a rock star. If you're ever wondering about how you can engage families in your school, call Jane Groff. Or email her. She's just a wonderful resource, and they develop these family engagement standards. And so we just want to run through them real quickly. And you can, as we roll through these, think about the lessons learned or the strategy you have in place right now and how they connect to these. So standard 1 is welcoming. And, you know, it's funny, Brad Neuenswander had the chance to go to Disney for some professional development about 4 or 5 years ago. And he brought back like Disney's rules for engagement. And we actually use them here at KSDE. And one of the things is be show ready. So when you're engaging with families, be show ready. And then stay in character throughout. Now, there are times I know when you're interacting with families and you may be having a conversation that is going south, but staying in character is really important. So, that's developing that welcoming atmosphere. Standard 2, communicating effectively. A lot of times, and especially pre-redesign, and I know I was part of this when I was in schools, it was a lot of one-way communication with families, information sharing, right? But when we're talking about communicating effectively, not only is it sharing information, but it's also receiving information, engaging families. It's two-way communication and it's meaningful. The third standard, supporting student success. Examples of this are parent education programs, maybe repurposed parent-teacher conferences, but it's where families have a different way to interact with their student and school staff to support student learning. I think the individual plan of study, the way that schools have approached that is a great way to engage students. And just having those, student-led conferences, those kinds of things, those different engagement strategies. Standard 4 is also supporting student success, but in a little bit different way. You're empowering families to be advocates for their own children. An example of that is an IPS conversation where the parents are understanding their students' strengths, interests, and talents, because you as the educator have brought those forth into their education. And I've heard a lot of positive comments from IPS conversations, individual plans of study conversations with parents. Maybe your parent-teacher organization is a way to empower families. Standard 5 is sharing power. Families and school staff are equal partners in the decisions. So that's when, as you all approached redesign, and I know many of you did this very well, you engaged your families in the visioning process. You actually asked them to engage in that process of developing our destination for this school. What should our school be like? And that's really, really powerful work. That's sharing that power. I know that you're going to hear from JJ Leibel today at Santa Fe Trail Middle School. And this might be part of his presentation. So JJ, sorry for stealing your thunder, but they actually had a parent on their school redesign committee. A parent was on their school redesign committee and was there every time. That's a great way to share power. Standard number 6 is collaborating with your community. Just the different opportunities that families and school staff have to collaborate with community members. And with redesign and a focus on post-secondary preparedness, there's been a huge increase in learning opportunities for students in the areas of community service, civic engagement, and career-based learning. And that takes strong partnerships and a network of community, business, industry partners to make that happen. And families play a pivotal role in setting up that network. So that's just a quick overview of the family engagement standards. Again, Jane Groff at the Kansas Parent Information Resource Center is a wonderful resource, an expert in this. So if you're interested, give Jane a shout. At this time, we are so excited to be able to hear from JJ Leibel at Santa Fe Trail Middle School. They are that's an Olathe school. They are a Mercury school, which means they are the veterans of redesign. They're first ones in, first ones through the wall. And the thing I remember about working with Santa Fe Trail Middle School and JJ and his team is that their school redesign team meetings happened every other week after school on a Friday. And they went till about 5 o'clock. And there were times when JJ was having to tell people to leave on a Friday after school. So that gives you a peek into how engaged that group was. And they have really transformed the learning experiences for students there at Santa Fe Trail Middle School. They've got high-level goals, and they've got a strong focus on allowing students choice in their learning. And to do that, it takes strong partnerships with the families of those students. So we're very happy and excited to have JJ here with us to share how they're connecting with families. So JJ, we'll turn it over to you.
All right, Jay. Well, thank you for those kind words. I don't know if know if we can live up to that, but thank you
Oh,
very much
bet.
for that. I really enjoyed working with you all. But so just if we could go to the next slide, maybe I can do it. Okay. So I just want to kind of start off by talking a little bit about what we call our pillars, because I think this gives you a little bit of background as far as redesign at Santa Fe Trail. So we have 3 pillars at SFT, and they are academic, SEL, and civic engagement. So primarily I'll be talking about this one today, this civic engagement piece and how we kind of engage with our stakeholders. And I did throw a little bit in here about some of our community partnerships, which is probably another session. So I'll try to steer away from that one a little bit, but if you have some questions about that, we can certainly do that as well. But these are our 3, we call them our pillars. And they're really kind of what holds up school redesign at SFT. We can go to the next one. All right, so this crazy schedule, I just want to throw this out there. Our schedule is set up around, we try to build our schedule around the needs of our students. Okay, so this just gives you a little bit of insight. We're one of 10 middle schools in Olathe, and so we are not the only game in Olathe. Some of you are in school, districts, and I've been in very small school districts where you are you're the county school, you're the school within that town. And I think there's some advantages to that, to being able to move a little bit faster. Here in Olathe, one of 10 middle schools, we have a lot more support and resources. But we also, it can be a little more difficult because we are not the only middle school, and there's a lot of consistency that needs to take place across the district. So I did want to share just this schedule briefly with you, just to let you know that this schedule does not match any other middle school in Olathe. And we've tweaked it from last year too. So last year we were a remote hybrid, we jumped back and forth. We were on pretty much a block schedule for less transitions. We tweaked this from the schedule that we had the year before. So I just want to kind of show it to you that we have a modified block schedule. So on Monday, Tuesdays, and Fridays, we're on the 7-period schedule right here. We have a period of time called WIN, which stands for what I need or what you need. And that is really going to take our intervention time that the state of Kansas has mandated, that intervention piece, and that's going to be done during this time. We've had that piece in there the entire time, but we're going to focus it a little bit differently. We do have a period of time that I'll point out called startup, which happens at the beginning of every day, whether it's a block or a 7-period day. And this is really where we get a lot of that SEL support. So when the kids come in, they don't jump into their first hour, their second hour, their second block right away. They go to the startup period, and this is the time for them to get mentoring, grade checks, our signups for our different activities, support, breakfast, those kinds of things. So I just kind of wanted to share a little bit about that. One change that we made just a little bit of, we have a wrap up. So the kids will go to their startup teacher, the same teacher, and they will wrap up with that same teacher at the end of the day. We took that out of our 7-period day though, because we felt like it was one more transition in a day where we're already transitioning a lot. So we just call what's called 7th hour extension, which is just like the last 4 or 5 minutes of the class for announcements and things like that to kind of wrap up the day. We can go to the next slide. Okay, so like I said, some of this is, I'll kind of focus on this first piece here. I just kind of put this together as before and after redesign. So community engagement was kind of the title here, and like I said, I'll stick with the parent end of this for the sake of time. But before redesign, I think we were very traditional. We have had student-led conferences at Santa Fe Trail before redesign. So that was something we were doing before redesign even was happening, which was great. But we had the typical parent-teacher conferences, the meetings with parents, concerts, activities and events, monthly newsletters, those types of things. And some of the things that have changed since redesign is that, for example, prior to us not being able to do this during COVID, we had what was called a redesign boot camp for parents. So we brought parents in and we gave them a little bit of overview, and then they went to different classrooms and actually experienced pieces of our redesign. So like our startup, our win time, some of the things that we're doing with civic engagement, they were actually able to go and be the student for a little while during that time. One of the things that I've learned, I've done some work with a guy by the name of Steve Bowler, and he's kind of an educational consultant out of New Jersey, and he's talked a lot about you have to carry the banner for your redesign. So we have started to really advertise this around our building. We found out that a lot of our students didn't know what our mission statement was. we say proud to be SFT all the time, and they thought that was our mission statement, and it's really not. So we started to, because our mission statement is empowering all learners to explore. And so we started to brand that a lot more and put that everywhere so that, and I put it in every email and everything for newsletters as well. One of the things that I will do is open up concerts, and I'll talk a little bit about redesign at that point, you know, and the importance of music, the importance of whatever we're doing at that time to really keep it at the forefront of their minds. And then if student parent newsletters, English and Spanish with videos, instead of those being monthly, those are weekly now. It does take a little bit more time, but I think it's worth it. If I can hopefully share this, it says that I can't share right now if somebody else is sharing. So I don't know. I'm sorry if it's going to mess everything up.
Nope, you should be able to share now.
Okay. All right. Let me see here. All right, can you guys see that screen? Thumbs up, awesome. All right, so these are some of the various newsletters that we do for parents this year and really our students. So I started at this, I'll just show this one first. I started what's called, I call it the CSN because we need more acronyms, especially in Olathe, everything's an acronym. So I call it the CSN, and the CSN stands for Cyclone Student News. I started this last year during remote learning, honestly, because it was a way for me to touch base with the kids, and we just kept it going because they seemed to like it. It was one of the positive things I think about redesign, what not specifically about redesign, but about remote learning. I've had more kids reach out to me via email in the last year than I've ever had before, asking questions. Where can I find this? Where can I find that? Which I think is great. I mean, their emails are maybe not well written, but it's cool that they're reaching out. So this is the CSN. So basically, like I said, we brand it, and then I do a video for them on a weekly basis. And so they're not great, but
Cyclones, Mr. Lible here with your weekly update for the week of October 4th.
So we'll do something like that on a weekly basis for them to show them. And we usually talk about an aspect of our respect poster, an aspect of redesign. So say, okay, this week we're going to focus on responsibility, and we're talking about the academic pillar, whatever happens to be. The teachers will show this during startup on Mondays. I email it out to the kids through our Blackboard system, and the teachers show it 7:30. Well, it goes out to the kids at 7:30. They show it during startup. And then we put our schedule, and then just some things. We shout out student birthdays, shout out students that are doing a great job, and just some updates and reminders there. We do the same thing for parents, and one change. I know a lot of people do newsletters, so this maybe isn't anything, but one change that we made on this was I did a video for parents as well, and the video is shorter for parents. It's like 2 minutes. This is actually a slide right here that we got from the Kansas Success Tour about what Kansas want from their school. So I'm talking about redesign all the time, just in their ear about it all the time. What I did learn is that that I've got to include the captions for our deaf and hard of hearing families. I had a parent that said, hey, what about those, those captions? So I'm including that as well. But this is one way that we've started to engage with our families a little bit more intentional. And this comes out on a weekly basis as well. So those are two ways that I've tried to do that. That is through a program called SMORE, which is very easy to work. If you have if you're interested in that, it's very easy to do. One more thing that I'll kind of share here and then see if you have any questions. This is something I stole from Stacy Green. I think she's out in Stockton. Am I right? Stockton, is that right? Okay. She's awesome. So I stole this idea from her, but this is a way to kind of engage with the stakeholders on your staff. I mentioned in the breakout session, we have 110 staff members total, 65 certified teachers. So how do you really engage with them on a weekly basis? This is optional, but I just call this the weekly check, and I send it out on Thursdays. And it's just basically, okay, so it tells the week, your name. They have to put their name on it because I can't check back in with them if they don't put their name on it. How are you feeling about this upcoming week? They can select one of these. Feeling great, I got this. I'm overwhelmed, and can use some TLC, or they can check here and then type in something. And then I'd like to send a shout out to the following staff member. We have this board in our faculty lounge called the marigolds. If you heard the story about the walnut trees and the marigolds, walnut trees are bad and marigolds are good. And so we have this board called the Marigolds. And what we do is we write this, I have a secretary that will write this on the Marigold and we'll slap it on the board, and then they can go find their name. So it's a shout out to the staff member there. One last thing I'll show you, and then I'll take any questions if you have any. Okay, maybe. And I'm going to be totally transparent. I have not used this one yet, but I'm excited to use this. I probably would not send this to you guys because I got special kind of permission from Steve to do this, but I'm just sharing it. I'm sure he would share it with you if you reach out to him. But really trying to get our family, or excuse me, our teachers to reach out to parents more with the phone call. I don't know about you guys, but it seems like this year, things that used to be a 1 with a parent are now an 8, and things that used to be a 5 or a 10, right? And what I found is that once you get them on the phone, it's typically a different conversation. That human connection, that kind of piece, it's just different. So I have not rolled this out with staff yet, but I'm going to, where this is a really cool like flow chart, like engaging your parents. So a parent has a concern. Is the parent being nice? Yes, the parent's being nice. You come down here. Can it be solved by you? No, go over here. So it's just kind of this flow chart. Is the parent being nice? No. Okay, listen, take notes, repeat the concern, kind of go through this flow chart. So I'm going to roll this out to them, and we're going to role play this. So with a nice parent and angry parent, and go through and role play this whole piece right here. Because I think a lot of times, like I said, things tend to be a 10 right now with families and parents, and you see that email, and then you don't want to respond because the email might have been a little bit not nice. And so when you pick up the phone, though, it's a different story. Those are just a few things. If I can go back to the presentation, I don't know if I can go back. Can I go back to it? I'm sorry.
If you have it
Stop
pulled up,
share.
you can, stop sharing. You can reshare, or I can share, and we can talk
Can you
from
share
that.
it, Sarah?
Yep.
Okay, sorry about that.
Oh, you're great.
All right, and so that's, yeah, the rest of this stuff down here is about community engagement, which is probably going to be a topic later on, or you guys may have already had it. So I won't go into that unless you want me to, but just what are some questions that you have? I mentioned in the other session as well, one thing that I did with staff last Friday, we did what we call a staff win day, a staff what I need day. And I just put myself in the conference room with chocolate and sodas and chips and snacks. And then staff just comes in and they talk, and I take notes. It's a little harder for them to be mad at me if you're giving them chocolate and sodas. But no, it's actually a really good session. And what I do is I look for patterns. So what am I hearing from multiple teachers? And then what are we going to do to try to solve those issues? But making yourself available, it's optional. Staff do not have to come in. But it was really good to sit down with them and just listen to their concerns. So that's what I have. Questions?
I love that flow chart. I wrote down that website just because when you're on the phone with an angry person, an angry parent, you can feel so flustered in the moment that you just don't even know what to do. Like you just don't even know how to move the conversation forward. And so having something really, concrete like that to remind you of what you can do and what you shouldn't do, I think that's just brilliant. Don wants to know, can you share that website for the flow chart?
I will try. It's probably going to be buried on his website a little bit. Like I said, I would send it to you, but I don't, he has not really given me permission. But the guy's name is Steve Bowler, Bollar. And he goes by Stand Tall Steve because he's like 6'7", art teacher, former art teacher. He's awesome. But he has all kinds of resources. And I'm sure if you reached out to him and said, hey, I've heard this in this session, can you share it? I just don't know where he's at in the process with how much he's shared, but Stand Tall Steve. Yeah, it's right there. standtallsteve.com. Really good stuff. He puts out these videos about once a week. They're like little 3-minute videos on topics, especially if you're a school leader or a teacher leader. They're like really good short little videos to kind of get you ready for the week.
What I love, JJ, is the resource you shared from Stacy. I remember when we had I don't know if it was a PLC last year or a mentoring meeting, but I remember that exchange of, oh, that's cool. And everyone was able to access it. And I think that's what's so exciting about these opportunities is that we can hear those little nuggets that people have found success with and share them. So I'm glad you were able to share how you capitalized on something. And I'm hoping that we can see something that you shared today stir up some change in other schools that are on with us.
Oh, thanks. I'll put my email address in there too. If you want access to some of those things, I'll put my email address here in the chat, and it's not there. And
so JJ, I do have a question when you're done typing your email. Thinking of parents, because I know sometimes, you know, you see parents over a long chunk of time as they have, you know, their kids that are cycling through. What have you heard from parents as far as how they've experienced these changes in the communication, engagement, involvement? What have you heard?
You know, I've heard some positive comments, like, you know, that of course, as you know, when you're a leader, sometimes no good deed goes unpunished, right? So when you try to do something for the first time, you know, like the feedback that I got on the including the captions, right, for the deaf or hard of hearing, like I was like, huh, you know, and at first I'm a little frustrated because I'm like, okay, how am I going to figure this out? Should I scrap the whole thing because of this? Because one parent's angry about the video? No, just figure it out for that family, make sure that they have access. You know, they need to have access like everybody else, right? Don't scrap your whole idea. I would say though, more than that, one thing that I've learned through this entire thing is the power of visibility. And I know a lot of you are teachers in here, so maybe that's a little different in your world, but I get more positive feedback about visibility than anything. So are you out there in the morning greeting students? Are you out there at the end of the day? Do they see you at the events that you attend, that they go to? And I'll be honest with you, I don't go to, like, I will try to go as many, like, they're like, you're at every concert. I'm like, well, I'm here to kind of, you know, like sometimes I'm here to intro, and then I'm like, I step out because it's not my right, because we have so many events, but it's that perception of visibility. So I think that's I've had parents that have been more willing, and like I said, more students. I think the biggest change has been students that have felt more comfortable emailing and contacting me directly, which has been pretty cool. Some of their questions are a little bit, but at least they're reaching out, right? They're middle schoolers. So some of their questions, I got a kid tell me, yeah, can you tell the district to turn Minecraft on my device? No, I can't do that and won't, but you know, I mean, at least they're reaching out.
Yeah, you don't know if you don't ask, right?
Right.
I'm sensing maybe we need another flow chart for what to do when a middle schooler emails the principal. That could be interesting. Any other questions for JJ? All right. Well, thank you so much for sharing. We appreciate your wisdom, your resources, your insights. And like I said, I'm glad that you're able to get something from these, and hope that we can kind of continue that, paying it forward and sharing those resources and ideas that make a difference. So in closing out this kind of learning for this afternoon, we would encourage all of you who are with us to make a commitment in thinking about those 4 disciplines. Really think about those family engagement standards, or even those management versus engagement. What's one area that you say, I can intentionally focus on this area over the course of the next month? I can try this strategy, and then keep score. Figure out how you're going to measure that strategy is being done, that it's making a difference, and set up that accountability, whether it be with people that are joining you today, or using these meetings as an opportunity to check in. But we do want to circle back with you next month and see if there's anything that you've tried that's been successful when it comes to engaging those families. So we would just encourage you to think about how you can take something you're learning today, tying it back to an area of those family engagement standards or those ideas around engagement, and just really challenge yourself to try something new to build that family engagement. Tammy, anything from that?
No, I think we'll just go ahead and move on. You know, we really like your feedback. It really helps us to shape what we want to do for you for each month. And so if you would take just a minute here to, oh, Sarah and I clicked that at the same time. Complete the survey, give us your feedback, let us know how we can help you, help make this more relevant and meaningful for you. And then just a reminder of our upcoming PLC dates. The next opportunity is November 2nd and November 3rd. Remember, we're doing these back to back on a Tuesday and a Wednesday. So choose one and join us. Opportunities to engage, building engaging relationships with staff. And so if you're talking about building a positive learning culture, we're going to be talking a little bit more about that, especially in light of where culture might be throughout all these times, even though it's extra stressful, even still. So we're talking a little bit about that. Sarah, you want to talk about this one?
Yeah, so we share these events and the Zoom links through the newsletter, through emails, but we do have a Redesign Google Calendar. It's linked on this slide, and it's also linked on our KSDE Redesign webpage. If you want to go to that Google Calendar and add it to yours, just so that those events automatically populate, feel welcome to do that, or you can click on each event and have it send you that calendar invite. So just a resource that's available to kind of help you do it once and you've got them on your calendar for the year. So just for that efficiency's sake, if you're wanting to do that, feel free. And then the last thing, I'll let Tammy talk about this in a little more depth, but we have been working with K-State. They wanted to create a documentary on the Kansas School Redesign Project, and that began long before COVID, and then COVID happened, but that team persisted and continued to film and continued to pursue this dream of having a documentary, and it is finally being released. And so I'll let Tammy share a little bit about that.
Yeah, so Sunday night was the first episode. It's on KTWU, which is Washburn University's PBS station. So it is not yet available statewide, but we will be, so if you don't get KTWU, don't worry about it. We're going to be loading these to our KSDE YouTube channel as well. But if you can watch it live, it's really exciting. Sunday night featured David Brewer Elementary School in Leavenworth. And so every Sunday night, 6 p.m. to 6:30, it's only 30 minutes. It runs through November the 7th. So if you can tune in. If you can't, we'll make those available eventually through YouTube. And with that, follow us on Twitter. We'd like to see you there in Tweetland. If you have something exciting going on at your school and you want to tweet about it, tag us so we can share the information all across the state. And with that, we're your redesign team. We're here to support you. If you ever have any questions, concerns, comments, criticisms, words of encouragement, please just shoot us an email, redesign@ksde.org. It gets all of us all at once. And with that, we are officially standing between you and your happy hour. So thank you so much for your time. We're happy to hang out and talk more, but we want you to enjoy your evening. So take care. Thank you for everything you do.